Okay, maybe we can start the first presentation. Now allow me to welcome the first speaker, Marlon V. Ruvino, PhD, to deliver his presentation. Marlon V. Ruvino, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much to our uh, moderator for this morning. Good morning, faculty and students from Universitas Muria Kudus. Uh, the department in agriculture, agrotechnology. It is in the pleasure. Were you able to see my presentation?
Okay, we see.
Can you see my presentation now?
Yeah, we can see your presentation.
You can see.
Thank you so much. Hello again. Good morning. Thank you. Good morning to all faculty and students of Universitas Muria Kudus, especially to Program Study Agrotechnology. Salamat pagi semuanya. Isingka saya untuk member kanalkan diri. Nama saya adalah Dr. Marlon B. Rufino. Saya adalah fakultas sa Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology, College of Education in the Philippines. I am with Mr. Jermil R. Angeles, also my co-faculty at the same institution. Sungguh suwata kehormatan dan hak istimewa sebagai dosen yung diundang about integrated farming practices through food security. I hope my Indonesian language is good and clear. I've done a lot of research.
That's excellent.
Thank you so much. I'll be doing a lot of that later on. By the way, I am Dr. Marlon Valdez Rufino. I am the program head of the Bachelor of Science in Industrial Education and Bachelor of Technology and Livelihood Education in the College of Education in Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology. So this is indeed a very memorable day for me because this is my first time to have a lecture in Indonesia, in Universitas Muria Kudus. We've done a lot of partnership in different universities and colleges in Indonesia. There are many to mention, but this is my first time to give lecture. But most of my job is to coordinate programs and activities to different universities in Indonesia under the CMEO, the Sea Teacher program. Okay, so for the objectives of our today's topic, we shall study or define farming, integrated farming, and integrated farming systems, or the IFS. I will present a simplified farming system models used by different agriculture science advocates and discuss integrated or mixed farming systems and its components, and enumerate the different benefits and disadvantages of integrated farming, and illustrate the integrated farming practices used in the Philippines. This is how we address or conduct the integrated farming practices to address scarcity of food and to ensure food security. So before we start, let me unlock some of the terminologies that will be used in our topic for today. So we shall be defining some term. The term is farming. This refers to the action of working on a farm or managing the job done there. That is according to Cambridge Dictionary. It also means to cultivate or produce a crop on land, or to cultivate, breed, or raise plants or animals. That definition was derived from definition of farming by the Free Dictionary 2020. Lalo apply to pertanian, perpadu. According to RINS 2008, integrated farming is described. Integrated farming which comprises cropping methods and other agricultural production techniques which fulfill both ecological and economic demands. Definisi nila in the reintegrated farming is a common sense entire farm management method that blends the ecological care of a diversified and healthy environment with the economic demands of agriculture to assure a consistent supply of good, inexpensive food. That definition was given in the Initiative and Development article. According to Chan, 1985, integrated farming is a combined agricultural study that includes crop and animal operations at the same time. He also said that the term used to explain a more integrated approach to farming compared to monoculture approach. He also stated that the system consists of simultaneous cultivation of cardamom, pepper, coffee, along with sheep and cow. So let us now proceed to typical integrated farming setup. So you will see in the figure a typical integrated farm setup. Common to all pictures are the combination or mixed strategies of utilizing and maximizing the farm and its resources, as well as the outputs to yield better output. They can be considered as model reference for those who are going to develop a model farm setup. Also, the setup signifies that integrated farming is a mix of many agricultural operations on the same plot of land that tries to maximizing the return of investment from the unit area, keeping soil healthy and fertile, using byproducts from one component of the agricultural system as an input in another to ensure supplemental and complementary enterprise relationships, and reducing pollution in the environment. So what then is integrated farming system? The integrated farming system, or IFS, is described as biologically integrated farming system that integrates natural resources, regulation mechanisms into farming activities in order to achieve highest placement of off-farm inputs, added benefit production of high-quality food, and other products through ecologically preferred technologies, maintain farm income, minimize sources of current environment pollutions obtained by agriculture, and sustain agriculture's multiple functions. Here are other definitions of integrated farming system. According to Sadahin and Biswas 2019, mixed farming systems or integrated farming produce both crops and animals on one farm. So this farming system permits wider crop rotations and thus reduces dependence on chemicals, allowing diversifications for better risk management. Ikande, on 2017, defined IFS or integrated farming system as cross-link farming. Cross-link farming system where farmers are using high-quality organic food and renewable energy. According to him, the main principle of such is to reduce pollution and increase income by combining different types of farming. So the following now are the components of integrated farming systems. We have different components of integrated farming systems. So these are, we have the production of crops, we have field crops, vegetables, fruit cultivation, poultry farming, we have livestock, duckery, aquaculture, beekeeping, mushroom cultivation, biogas plant. So let us now then see the benefits of integrated farming system. So modern farmers strive to reduce expenses while maximizing outcomes. As a result, it is critical to carefully evaluate and understand how to correctly manage a farm. There have been several successful situations where cattle breeding and agricultural production have been linked in such a way that productivity in both sectors has grown. So here are the benefits of integrated farming system according to Raman 2018. So the first, we have here the enhanced productivity, profitability, adoption of new technology, environmental safety, and fight against deforestation. So the first one is enhanced productivity. It is one of the most important benefits of integrated farming system. So by increased productivity means that economic yield increases per unit area, per unit by time, due to intensification of crop and allied farming enterprises. Another is profitability. So the factor also increases as productivity increase. This is because we are using the waste material or byproduct of one enterprise as an input into other farming enterprise. The third one is adoption of new technology. It is one of the most important benefits of integrated farming system. Why? This is because adoption of technology needs money, and large farmers have finances, so they can adapt to it easily. However, small farmers usually face shortage in finances. But due to this integrated farming system, they have the opportunity to increase their returns from farming and adapt to new technology. And the fourth one is environmental safety. Environmental safety is ensured in this approach. How? As we are using the waste material of one enterprise as input to the production function of other type of enterprise, so waste pollution is minimized, and hence environmental safety is ensured. And the last one is fight against deforestation. Planting timber and fuel wood along with the crops in field not only utilizes the free space of the land, but also supply wood for many purposes. Hence, pressure on natural forests can be reduced and natural ecosystem is preserved. Next to be shown are few other benefits of the integrated farming systems. Also related to the enumerated items in the previous slide, the following are some of the few benefits. These are promotion of agro-industry, increased input efficiency, cost minimization for input use, increased employment, further security for livestock, recycling, continuous income round the year and energy saving, So those are some of the few benefits which are also related to the things that I have mentioned to you earlier. So now, I will show you the integrated farming systems in the Philippines. So agriculture is very important in the Philippines, just like in Indonesia. The Philippines is located in Southeast Asia, bordered by the South China Sea, or we call that the West Philippine Sea, to the northwest, the Pacific Ocean to the east, and the Celebes Sea to the south. Its Philippines' strategic position not only makes it a gathering place, but also a cultural hub and a distribution point for commodities in the area. Therefore, integrated farming is really inevitably present to all aspects of farming strategy by the Filipino agriculturists and farmers. According to Guzman, 2015, the Philippines is predominantly an agricultural country composed of small farms with an average area of 2 hectares per farm. Widespread poverty continues to be a big problem in the country, and Filipino adults and children continue to be afflicted by various forms of malnutrition, such as underweight, underheight, and wasting. And also, the Philippines is primarily an agricultural country, with a large portion of Filipinos living in rural areas and supporting themselves through agricultural activities. Recent figures suggest that about a quarter of employed Filipinos work in the agricultural sector, which is made up of 4 subsectors. We have farming, fisheries, livestock, and forestry. In 2020, the sector generated a gross value added, or GVA, of about 1.78 trillion Philippine pesos. I really not sure how much it will cost in Indonesian rupiah, to a 10.2% share of country's gross domestic product, or the GDP. So the source of this information is from the agriculture in the Philippines. It's a business and facts. So the Philippines is primarily, again, an agricultural country, despite the plan to make it an industrialized country in 2000. The country's agricultural sector is divided into farming, fishery, livestock, and forestry, making up 20% of the country's gross domestic product. And that, again, the source is from the agriculture in the Philippines, an overview by the Philippine British Business Council. According to Zamora, 2010, as cited in the study of Guzman in 2015, it is paradoxical that 66% of the poor now work in agriculture, forestry, and fisheries. Poverty is prevalent in rural regions at 68%, compared to only 34% in metropolitan areas, despite Philippines being an agricultural country. It was also mentioned that the poorest of the poor are the indigenous people, small-scale farmers who cultivate land received through agrarian reform, landless workers, fishers, or the fishermen, people in upland areas, and women. So they are the poorest of the poor. So according to them, the coastal waters have the highest poverty prevalence among maize farmers, rice and corn workers, sugarcane farm workers, coconut farm workers, and forestry workers and fishermen. So those are much of the information from the Philippines. Another one, despite problems brought about by the coronavirus pandemic, Philippine agricultural production managed to grow by 0.5% in the second quarter of 2020. That is according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. So agriculture recovered from a 1.4% decline in the first quarter by producing more crops and fisheries. Agriculture production fell below 0.6% from January to June of 2020. That is according to Rivas. Now, farmers confront new difficulties and possibilities every day. Being a rising global population, while fulfilling tough new emissions rules or producing more food on fewer acres, while reducing the environmental effect. So farmers confront rules or producing more food and fewer acres while reducing their environmental effect. In the Philippines, as I observed from day-to-day news, the common issue impacting agriculture were the following. We have the meeting the increased worldwide demand for commodities because of the emerging economies and global population expansion. We have land availability and costs for expansion. And then new mandates and restrictions imposed by the government. We have global financial markets, stability, progress and fluctuation, and the impact of global trade policy on food security and commodity supply, and demands and biofuel development and utilization. So what you can see in the presentation are the problems with present-day agriculture. I know that this is also happening in your country. We have the growth pace, agriculture's growth pace has slowed, factor productivity is declining, food output is declining, we have worsening malnutrition, net cultivable areas have decreased because of the land conversion, increasing contamination of the environment. Our basic problem here in the Philippines, high cost of farm inputs and expenses. Also, water irrigation or supply. Production costs are rising. Farm revenue is low. Availability of farm laborers. They try to tend to shift from another job, from being farmers to another. We have, of course, this is our problem, climate change, and also the access to modern agriculture technologies due to its very expensive costs. So how is the Philippine agriculture performed today? So I will show you a graph on how the Philippine agriculture performed in the third quarter of 2021. So this is the latest. So as you can see in the figure, in the distribution per subsector on the third quarter of 2021, crops are predominantly high than other the fisheries, poultry, and livestock. In 2020 and in 2021, if you're going to compare, the decrease is really considerable, the percentage decrease. But as a little of gaining or a slow gain in the fisheries, there is a decline in fisheries for 2021. It performed better than in 2020. But in the livestock, it really fell down. So that is how our Philippine agriculture performed, this latest. So crop is still dominated the production as the poultry is the latest. Is this in terms of output? A decrease in all of the subsectors is evident due to the pandemic. So now, how can we address this? Of course, the food security is in danger if this is the thing. So let me now show you the highlights of practices of integrated farming system in our country. This only signifies that the integrate a great help to sustain and gain from the losses made by the current pandemic. Okay, these are the integrated farming practices in the Philippines. So generally, different countries may or may not have the same farming practices due to its geographical condition and location. There are several factors why the farming practices may be the same or different. But in the Philippines, several diversified and integrated practices are present and currently practiced by many Philippine farmers and agriculturists. So this was taken out from the study of Guzman. The first integrated farming system is the coconut-based multi-story system. We have the program called the Basipag, and we have the BIG, or the bio-intensive gardening, and we have the SALT, also known as the sloping agricultural land technology, and we have the vegetable agroforestry systems, and the complex upland food production systems of different indigenous people communities all over the country. So these are the 6 well-known farm practices in the Philippines. So let me give you an information about those farm practices. So for the coconut-based multi-story system developed and practiced in Cavite. Cavite is a place in nearby Manila, the capital city of the Philippines. It's a province, basically also a coconut producing province. So in their program, it was described in the research about the DIFS of Guzman. This indigenous agroforestry strategy for integrating several crops in a multi-story framework yields reduce risk that may be associated with natural calamities and climate change as harvest is spread over the year, even distribution of labor and income rather than seasonal, as in the case of monocropping, and less work as tillage is minimal and work is mainly planting and harvesting, and reduce pest infestation because of the high diversity of crops. But I think in terms of this coconut, the coconut there also face serious problems with different pests. They called it cocolisa, but I think they already addressed that situation. So the Cavite system is coconut-based with a complex combination of annuals and perennial crops. So such successful combinations are, so they combine coconut with papaya, pineapple, and taro. Also coconut, and also we have here the upland rice, which is basically the food of the Filipinos, the Oryza sativa, and also combined with pineapple and daisy, Sabellis perennes, banana, sweet potato, or we call it sayote, or the Sisium edule, and ginger. And also coconut is combined with coffee, upland rice, corn, papaya, and pineapple. And coconut, banana, lanzones, coffee, and taro. We also have coconut, papaya, banana, cacahuate, black pepper, taro, pineapple. So that is the Cavite system, coconut-based complex combination of annuals and perennial crops. Moving to our next integrated farm practice, we have the masipag, organic farming as practiced by small-scale farmers. So masipag, it's an acronym which stands for magsasaka at siyentipiko para sa pag-unlad ng agrikultura or farmers. That is, in English, that is Farmer-Scientist Partnership for agricultural development, that is about masipag. So they take up the first letter of the word. So masipag stands for the Farmer-Scientist Partnership for Agricultural Development. So according to Ciencia 2007, as mentioned in the research of Guzman 2015, the following became the benefits of farmers under the masipag. So they identified an increase in rice varietal variety, providing farmers with sufficient rice selections to choose from each cropping season. Another benefit is that farmers' economic position was also reinforced as they became less sensitive to economic losses caused by pest and disease infestation. A substantial number of farmers have included various crops and livestock into their farms. So the farm animals included pigs, ducks, chickens, and fish. So a variety of plants and veggies were also included. And vegetables provided nourishment for the farmers' households as well as extra sources of revenue. So again, Masipag is a farmer-led network of people, organizations, NGOs, or non-governmental organizations and scientists working towards the sustainable use and management of biodiversity through farmers' control of genetic and biological resources, agricultural production, and associated knowledge. So it is a countrywide network over 35,000 small-scale farmers, farmer groups, scientists, and non-governmental organizations or NGOs dedicated to improving the quality of life of resource-poor farmers through a farmer-led sustainable agriculture strategy. That is stated by Bachmann on 2009. Okay, now the third practice is what we call the BIG, the acronym BIG, or the Biointensive Gardening. It is promoted by the International Institute of Rural Reconstruction, or IRRR, in Cavite also. So why this thing happened? Because of the fall of sugar sector in the Philippines in 1984, faced people near starvation. So as a result, the International Institute of Rural Reconstruction, or the IRRR, created a supportive biointensive gardening, or the BIG. So that is the initiative in the province of Negros Occidental. So this is a different province now. It's along the Visayan archipelago. So to boost food availability for hungry people. So malnutrition rates have fallen from 40% to 25% 2 years after this farming practice BIG was implemented in 1986. So that is according to Addison. Now, according to Gonsalves, 1989, as cited in the study of Guzman again, BIG is distinguished by the use of small land area for vegetable production, ranging from 18.6 to 46.5 square meter, then organic fertilizers such as compost and animal manure, and fragrant herbs for insect control. So this is purely organic in nature. So less cost is really consumed in the implementation of this biointensive gardening. So here are some of the examples of different crops planted in BIG. We have the Brassica rapa, or the pechay. We have the Brassica oleracea, or the cabbage. We have the Talinum fruticosum, the Philippine spinach. We have the Amaranthus, or the amaranth. We have the Moringa oleifera, or the horseradish tree, I mean. We have the Cucumis sativus, or the mustard cucumber. We have the radish, eggplant, tomato, squash, spotted gourd, bitter gourd, or the Mamoradica, Schranzia, yam bean, winged bean, pigeon pea, or the Cajanus cajan, ginger, chili, the capsicum, anum, sweet potato, and we have taro, greater or purple yam, cassava. So these are examples of different crops planted in the BIG. And then we have the fruit-bearing crops planted around the BIG, also includes pineapple, avocado, guava, jackfruit, breadfruit, or the Artocarpus altilis. We have the sugar apple, or the Anonas squamosa. We have the banana, papaya. So those are the things under the fruits in the BIG. Now, another program, another practice is the SALT. SALT is not the thing that you taste, salty. So it's an acronym for Sloping Agricultural Land Technology. This is designed and promoted by the Mindanao Baptist Rural Life Center in Davao del Sur. By the way, Philippines composed of 3 archipelagos. We have the Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. So Cavite is in Luzon. We have Negros Occidental and Oriental is in Visayas. But this time, this SALT is under Davao del Sur, which is located in the archipelago of Mindanao. So, what are the objectives of SALT? According to Guzman et al. 2015, it controls soil erosion through the establishment of double hedgerows of leguminous shrubs or trees. It helps restore soil structure and fertility through crop rotation and by cutting the branches every 30 to 45 days and incorporating these back into the soil. So, and then it also produces food efficiently. So there are 4 variations of SALT developed by this Mindanao Baptist Rural Life Center, according to Guzman. So the first one is designed for a 1 hectare farm with a 25% slope. So this is something, a mountainous portion or a portion in a hill. It is a combination of agricultural crops and 25% forestry. And then another program, SALT 2, which is called Simple Agro Livestock Technology. It is an agroforestry system on goat production with a land use of 40% for agriculture, 40% for livestock, and 20% for forestry. And for SALT 3, it is the Sustainable Agroforest Land Technology. It is based on small-scale reforestation integrated with food production. Of the farm area, about 40% is used for crops and 60% for forestry. And the last one is the Small Agro-Fruit Livelihood Technology. It is focused on horticulture and plantation crops. So this variation can be used in terms of the farming practices under SALT. Okay, so we have the other one, the BAF, or the Vegetable Agroforestry Systems of the World Agroforestry Center in Bukidnon. Okay, Bukidnon is also placed under the Mindanao Archipelago. They are well known for the pineapple plantation. So according to Katakutan and Duque Pinion, as cited in Katakutan 2012 in the research of Guzman, vegetable agroforestry is a viable farming system in the uplands. It's the integration of vegetable in tree-based farming or tree integration in vegetable production. So it provides multiple benefits, including provision of micronutrients to the diet of rural community and enhancement of on-farm biodiversity and environmental sustainability. So there are 3 essential strategies to increase the economic advantage of commercial or subsistence BAF or vegetable agroforestry production system. So the first one, we have the lessen, if not completely eliminate, competition between trees and vegetable by planting sustainable plants up to 4 to 6 meters away from the tree line. A second method is to improve the complementing benefits of trees on vegetable or the supplemental effects of trees on vegetable by increasing humidity, lowering wind speed, and increasing soil moisture through tree roots, hydraulic lift, while minimizing light competition as a source of energy. So the third one is to establish desirable tree species that will increase revenue. Okay, so that is under the vegetable agroforestry. And then the last one, we have the so-called complex upland food production system for different indigenous peoples communities all over the country. So this farming practice is now catering the whole part of the country because our country is really having a lot of indigenous peoples in all of the archipelagos. To name a few, we have the Manobo, Itas, Mangyan, etc., etc. So, according to Zamora, as cited in the research of Guzman, here are the nature of the indigenous people food production system. So when they produce food, it is anchored to their cultures and their intimate relationship with their environment, along with their limited financial and material resources. Also, they use simple agricultural tools and planting techniques and apply very limited external inputs. And they also make use of indigenous pest water and nutrient management system and seed storage practices. So those are the farming practices in the Philippines, and still evident to exist up to the present time. So that is to address food security. Okay. Okay, for the references I made, you can see here the presentation. So that's all for today. Terima kasih. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Marlon Piruino, for giving us such an informative and interesting presentation about the integrated farming management. Okay, that we know is like a blend the ecological of cropping, farmland, animal, livestock, like that, and that in this presentation we know that the Philippines have some action about the integrated farming, like in a Cavite, province.
Yes.
Is this a province, Cavite?
It's a province.
It's a province, yeah.
A province. Just like Nueva Ecija, it's another province.
Yes.
Cavite.
Cavite. And Masipak and a pig, yeah.
Yes, the Masipak program.
Intensive gardening, salt, yeah, in Mindanao, yeah.
Yes.
It's like a planting action with the leguminous tree to control the erosion, like that, yeah. It's so
Yes.
informative, and I think it's very interesting. But I think it's for effectiveness of the time. Now allow me to welcome the second speaker, Mr. Jermil R. Angeles LPT, to deliver his presentation. Okay, Mr. Jermil.
Hello, good morning.
Okay.
Can I start sharing my screen?
It's okay that both of the speaker give the presented first, and then we open the question session. Okay. Okay, Mr. Jermil, the floor is yours.
Sorry, I am disabled to share my screen.
Not yet. Still uploading.
Please allow me to share my screen. Thank you.
Okay. Just,
Okay.
okay. Wait a minute. We have some problem.
Yes.
Okay.
Sir,
It's already.
Can you see my screen?
Okay. We can see your slide.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, again, good morning, everyone, to the participants and the organizers of this lecture series. Okay, so as a continuation of the discussion, lecture of Dr. Fino, now let me share to you, or let me start this lecture by telling you a story. Okay, do you like story?
Yes, I like it.
Yes, of course. No?
Okay, we like it.
Yes. So having grown in an agricultural community, I saw the challenges of people in this sector. Now, allow me to introduce to you Mang Tani, a typical crop farmer for more than 20 years. With those years, he should be doing well as a farmer. But no, sadly to say, no. Mang Tani finds it difficult to sustain the needs of his family as financial loss, climate change, high costs, and low income continue to haunt the agriculture sector, especially in this time of pandemic. Given that situation, how can we solve this question? How can we invigorate the agriculture industry through technology? To answer this, it is part of the lecture series on integrated farming practices. For food security, salamat pagi na masaya, Mr. Jermit R. Angeles, a faculty member of the College of Education, Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology in the Philippines, will share to you some of the issue-related status of agriculture and fisheries sectors of ASEAN countries. Let me start by defining what is food security. So food security is a universal concept and is a central concern for humanity. During the 1996 World Food Summit, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, or FAO, stated that food security exists when all people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. In addition to that, the NFO extends this definition with 4 dimensions. They become specific with that. So it starts with food accessibility. So it refers to adequate or enough access to food resources for a nutritious diet. Next is stability. So it is to secure the population, household, or individual access to adequate food at all times, protected from sudden shocks or cyclical events that can be threaten availability of and access to food resources. Followed by utilization. It is how food utilized with adequate diet, clean water, sanitation, and healthcare to a state of nutritional well-being, demonstrating the importance of non-food inputs for food security. While food availability refers to the availability of sufficient quantities and appropriate quality of food products that are either locally produced or supplied by imports, including food aid. Moreover, according to the report released by the ASEAN Development Bank, or ADB, on May 18, 2021, the direct effects of climate change include alteration to carbon dioxide availability, precipitation, and temperatures, while indirect effects include its impact on water resource availability and seasonality, soil organic matter transformation, soil erosion, changes in pest and disease profiles, the arrival of invasive species, and decline in arable areas due to the submerge of coastal lands and desertification. Our knowledge of climate change is slowly revealing that the severity of its impact and its contribution to the deteriorating food security situation, the danger to future global food security is a key implication of climate change that fundamentally threatens the survivability and sustainability of all life. Now, let us analyze the status of both agriculture and freshwater resources in each ASEAN country. People in agriculture areas where poverty incidences are fairly high. As shown in this data, in the Philippines, these people are usually the farmers and fisher folks who have to make ends meet because of an unstable income in agriculture. Yet, if we look at the numbers, the marginalized sectors of agriculture in the ASEAN region has high contribution in terms of employment. Here, the Philippines plus 22.9%, Indonesia has 27.30%, while Cambodia has 54.9%, the highest in Southeast Asia. Zooming in on the Asean economy, the agriculture sector still produces the numbers to contribute to the region's gross domestic products. But the sad truth is, it is declining as shown in the figure. In that data given, I wondered how our farmers and fisher folks would fare in the next 4 years. With the use of SAP or SAP Analytics Cloud calculated the projection through predictive analysis, in just a short period, from 11.10 in 2015, it will go down to 8.9% in 2025. How sad. Can you imagine what will happen to the agriculture sector in the next 10 or 20 years? Personally, I can think of the worst scenario. Improvements in food security have been aided by the expansion of agriculture and fisheries sectors, and both sectors remain important components of regional food security policy. However, in order these countries using market interventions to achieve food security goals has resulted in unforeseen effects for both sector development and food security. The table shows the contextual indicators for selected countries in Southeast Asia in 2015. According to this report released by the World Bank in 2017, the country with the highest land area allocated for agriculture was Indonesia, with a total agricultural land of 570 square kilometers. Also, considering the freshwater resources, it is also Indonesia who obtained the highest area of 2.19 trillion cubic meters. It is undeniably true that both agriculture and freshwater resources are a significant contributor of food source in your country. I hope in the Philippines it is the same. Okay, now let's take a look to the production growth in Southeast Asia. Structural adjustment in the sector has contributed to strong production growth over time. Since the 1960s, annual compound production growth in the Southeast Asian region as whole has been strong as shown in this figure. However, agriculture production growth relative to population growth has been strong since 1980s. It is shown as per capita growth, driven by both slowing population growth rates and increases in agriculture growth rates during the 1980s and 20s. Talking about agricultural production in Southeast Asia, it is evident in the figure that rice cultivation is the main agriculture production activity, accounting for a greater share of gross production value than any other simple or single commodity. However, the contribution of rice to total gross agriculture production value has fallen since the early 1990s, from around 40% to close to 30% in the 2013 as shown in the figure. Much of the change has been driven by the increasing contribution of palm oil, second to the rice, to total agricultural production value in the region as it represents higher value product, combined with relative dietary shifts away from rice in some countries. Within the commodity categories, there have also been changes such as increasing poultry production within the meat sector. Now, in Malaysia, production has significantly shifted towards palm oil. This is compared to the data or the table before. Okay. Crowding out both rice and other production activities from rice to palm oil. In Myanmar, there have been increases in both meat and fruit and vegetable production, and its shares of production value coming from rice has fallen by around 20 percentage points over the past 50 years. Expressed as shares in constant dollar terms, in 2013, the agriculture sectors of Cambodia and Malaysia were most brilliant on one production activity or sector. It is rice and palm oil, respectively. Others more examined, or other are more diversified. Over the period, the Philippines is the only country where the share of rice in its total agriculture production value has increased. Now, let us take a look in the marine and inland fishery production. We all know that fish and seafood products represent the main source of animal protein for most of the population in the region because we are surrounded by water. Per capita, fish consumption stands at around 36 kilograms, around double the world average, and accounts for about 42% of total animal protein intake for individuals. With that, as shown in the figure, in 2015, the region accounted for close to 17% of global fisheries production, wherein 14% for aqua culture and 19% for capture fisheries. Overall, fisheries and aquaculture production increased by around 75% over the period of 2000 to 2015. And the largest increase was seen in the production from inland aquaculture, where production grew over 46% between 2000 and 2015, growing at the average annual rate 12.4% over the period. Maybe it's because of the advantage of technology, wherein people learn and continue to discover the process of inland waters aquaculture because of the limited resources getting from the marine areas capture, and as well in the inland water captures. Across countries, Indonesia dominates total fishery and aquaculture production in the region, accounting for 38% of total production in 2015, as shown in the figure. The extent of this dominance has increased over time on the back of a strong production growth. At the same time, fishery and aquaculture production has also increased significantly in Vietnam, almost tripling between 2000 and 2015, with Myanmar recording a similar level growth in production, moving from the 6th to 3rd largest regional producer. Across the region, growth in aquaculture has been unequal among countries, reflecting in differences in local policy, management objectives, and environmental factors. Those are the factors or variables that can affect the growth of the rate of aquacultures in different regions. Indonesia and Vietnam are the most important aquaculture producers in the region, accounting for close 40% and 31% of the quantity produced respectively. Over the period 2000 to 2015 production, growth in Vietnam was consistently high, only slowing towards the end of the period. In contrast, the strong growth in Indonesia took place more recently and is concentrated at the end of the period. In contrast, production in Thailand declined by 37% between 2009 and 2015 due to disease that affected shrimp production. Taking that into account, 2011 has given us the preview of what would happen in the future. Back then, Southeast Asia has already been suffering from agricultural loss and waste. And we are talking of millions of metric tons on this matter. Yet a concrete solution with the help of technology seemed to be elusive that time and at this moment. For the region as a whole, as you can see in the figure, while agriculture and fishery production expected to grow, slowing growth rates in a number of countries will mean that the growth of regional production growth will slowly relatively to the world production growth. This means the region's share in total world production is expected to remain relatively stable over the medium term. Rising land and environmental factors will play a role in these changes. Net agriculture and fish production is projected to grow at the rate of 1.8% per year over the next decade, down from a robust rate of 2.7% per year experienced over the previous 10 years. On that note, if there had been a unified system to improve the agriculture and fishery sector, there would be less hunger in the ASEAN region, right? Looking at this data, the Philippines falls in the moderate scale, same as with Indonesia. But our neighboring countries like Cambodia and Myanmar are experiencing a serious situations as they rank 76th and 78th in the Global Hunger Index, respectively. As one ASEAN community, this is not just their problem. It is also concern of all the Southeast member states. To end this lecture, I want you to reflect on this quotation. Or, you don't need to worry about changing the world or the whole world. If you can just make things better for someone in your world, you will experience the reality, joy, and satisfaction making a difference. That ends my discussion. Again, namasaya, Mr. Jeremy R. Angeles. Salamat tinggal, sampai ketemu lagi. Terima kasih.
Okay, thank you. Salamat, Mr. Jeremy Angels. Okay, I'm very same because both of them is can the way in Indonesia. I still cannot in Tagalog language. Sorry. Okay, it's very nice presentation from the Jeremy R. Angeles LPT. And we know about the big data of the Southeast Asia fishery and agriculture. Okay, it's a very interesting presentation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now come to the question and answer session. I'd like to have 3 questions first, maybe from the participant, please. You can directly click the menu, raise hand, or using the live chat. Okay. Okay, Maybe during we waiting the question for the Chermil Angeles, what the meaning of the Mangtani in your language?
Oh yes, Mangtani is a name usually used to a farmer. Yes, Mangtani, or in another term, it refers to a weather. Yes, just like
Actually,
Mangtani.
yeah. In our language, we say Pak Tani.
Yeah, Patani.
Close, actually.
Patani is Mangtani.
Wow,
Oh,
it's almost the same, huh?
yeah, almost the same, but it's maybe it's different, like phrases like this. I think it's almost the same meaning.
Yeah, yeah, same. Meaning.
Tagalog and Indonesian language. It's very interesting.
May I raise a question?
Okay, Ms. Zetnahdi, have a question?
Okay, let me introduce to myself, to especially the two guest speakers of us. It is really a pleasure for us to have two guest speakers here from Neust in the Philippines. I would like to raise probably one or two questions, but it is quite a general question actually. The first one is for the first speaker.
Yes, sir.
I'm really interested that, as we know, that both Philippines and Indonesia are geographically close, and we have similar geographic conditions, because all of these countries, for both countries, are archipelagos. So, do you have any suggestion for us that we can learn the lessons from your presentations? This is my first question, and the second